Good morning, and thank you all for joining us for this mid-season report, if you will. But more importantly, thank you for your continued coverage of the Dallas Wings and the WNBA. I'm going to talk a little business today. I'm going to talk a little basketball today, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end of my brief remarks. Let me start by saying there has never been a better time to be a part of the WNBA and the Dallas Wings. From a league perspective, the WNBA recently announced a landmark 11-year broadcast rights deal with Disney, NBC Universal, and Amazon. It'll be a record-breaking annual average rights fee, and the good news is there's probably still room for additional broadcast partners to be added to the national picture as we move forward. With these new agreements with ABC, ESPN, NBC Universal, and Amazon alone, that will deliver a minimum of 125 national broadcasts per year when the rights agreement begins in 2026. Why is there so much interest from a broadcast perspective? Because there's so much interest in the league from an attendance perspective and a viewership perspective. Through the first half of the season, the league is averaging 9,670 fans per game. There have been 93 sellouts and a total of 148 games played, and attendance is up 44% from last year. The league is playing to a capacity of 95%. From a broadcast perspective, the most recent highlight, the All-Star Game, with an average of 3.4 million people viewed the game on ABC with a peak of 4.1 million viewers. That represents a 305% increase from 2023, and that broadcast was the third most watched game ever for the league on any network, trailing only the very first two broadcasts back in the inaugural 1997 season. Of course, with increased demand, you look for potential to increase supply. And as it's been noted most recently by WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert, the league is closely examining the opportunity to increase the regular season slate of games beginning next year, potentially increasing from our current 40 format of 20 home and 20 away to 44, 22 home and 22 away. From an expansion perspective, we already know next year the league expands by one team to a league of 13 teams with the addition of Golden State. The next season in 2026, we go to 14 teams as Toronto enters the league. Closer to home here for the Wings, we've had a great first half of the season from a business perspective. We're averaging 6,057 fans per game. That's up 31% from a year ago. We are playing to 97% capacity at College Park Center. We've had 6 sellouts in our first 11 regular season games, and we actually have a 7th sellout if you include the preseason game that we played back in May. Our 3 best games ever from a ticket revenue perspective have all come this season. We set a record with the home opener that was broken with the second game we played, which was then broken by a lot in our most recent home game on July the 17th. We expect a minimum of 2 additional sellouts over the course of our remaining 2024 home slate. From a corporate partnership perspective, we've welcomed several new partners, including Baylor Scott White Health, NextCare Urgent Care, Wendy's, and our newest partner, Raising Cane's. Not only are we adding more partners, but we're adding larger partners who are regional and national in scope and reach. From our broadcast perspective, our most recent highlight, our last game of the first half, our July 17th game versus Indiana, which aired on ESPN, 1.7 million was the average viewership for that game. Of course, our biggest news from a business perspective over the last 6 months or so is our announcement that came in late April when we announced the team will be moving to Dallas for the 2026 season. As part of that, we'll play at a fully renovated Dallas Memorial Auditorium in downtown Dallas, and the city will be constructing a new practice facility that will be exclusively for our use, also coming online in 2026. This is a tremendous opportunity for our organization. It's fantastic for our fans, and most importantly, it provides our athletes with the resources they need to play at the highest level in the most competitive league in the world, the WNBA. Between now and then, however, for the remainder of this season and the 2025 season, we will continue to call College Park Center home, and we're excited about that because we truly believe our fans, the best fans in the WNBA, have created the best environment from a home court perspective for our team at College Park Center. Transitioning from off the court to on the court, obviously, as we sit here at 9-16 through 25 games, this is not the season that any of us anticipated coming off last year's semifinal run. At the end of the day, I'm a big believer this is a bottom line business, and you are what your record says you are, and really there are no excuses. But I do think it's fair to talk a little bit about the injury situation that we've experienced this year. It's been candidly unprecedented, starting with Satu Sabli, a first-team All-WNBA member a year ago. She's missed the entire season so far, all 25 games, with a shoulder injury that she suffered while qualifying Germany for the Olympics back in February. Jaylen Brown, one of our off-season free agent signings who had a tremendous training camp, was injured in the first game of the season, has missed 24 of 25 games. Natasha Howard, perennial all-star, has missed 12 of 25. And the player, for my money, who was leading the race for most improved player in the league prior to her injury, Maddie Sechrist, has been out for the last 12 games after suffering a finger injury in Minnesota back in June. From a bright spots perspective, we'll start with Arike. Obviously, Arike just had a tremendous all-star game where she earned her second most valuable player award at an all-star competition. But from a competitive in-season perspective, she's third in the league right now in scoring. That's not a surprise, but I think what is a surprise is how she continues to elevate her game in other ways. And I'll point for this time to her defense, and most notably the fact that she's currently leading the league in steals. She also has the high watermark this year for points in a game when she recorded 40 at Phoenix on May the 25th. I already mentioned Maddie, tremendous effort the first half of the season prior to her injury. She had increased her minutes played per game from 8 last year during her rookie campaign to over 34 a game this year. And she had increased her scoring from about 3 points per game to almost 15 points per game before she was injured. Of course, the silver lining whenever you have a lot of injuries is it creates opportunity for other players, and we have a number who have increased their minutes and their time on court because of the injuries. I think the most notable would be JC Sheldon. You know, JC entered the starting lineup when Maddie went out during the June 17th game at Minnesota. Since that time, she's played over 30 minutes per game, and she's more than tripled her scoring average, including a couple of games where she's hit very big buckets down the stretch for us to secure wins. That July 17th game against Indiana that we won before the break is probably a really good example of that. In terms of our injury situation and where we are, I'll give you a brief update on that. Jaylen has returned to full practice, and barring a setback, we expect her to be ready to play on August 16th versus Connecticut. If you've been following the Olympics, you know Satu had a great Olympic game. She led Germany to the quarterfinals before they were eliminated yesterday. She averaged almost 19 points per game and 6 rebounds per contest. She shot 38% from 3, and you started to see the old Satu coming back and what makes her a dynamic player, the unicorn, if you will, in terms of her ability to score at all 3 levels and really impact a game in a way few can. She is due back in Dallas on Saturday night. We'll evaluate her over the weekend and then start to crystallize a time and plan for her and her return. But we expect her to be ready to go early in the second half. In terms of Maddie, she had a significant surgery on her finger back in June. She has returned to limited action. I don't think we'll see her on August the 16th, but I do think it's possible we see her the next game, which is August the 20th at New York. So probably not right after the break, but immediately following that first game, Maddie will be cleared 100% and back in the lineup. So what does this mean for our roster as we have potentially up to 3 players returning? To look forward, I want to kind of take us back and kind of table set again back to the beginning of the season and where we were. We entered the season with 11 players under contract. We knew one of them, Satu, was injured for an extended period of time. What we didn't account for was the surprise injuries to Jaylen and Natasha Howard early, and then subsequently the injury to Maddie later. As a result of those injuries, while we started the season under the salary cap with a little money to spare that we planned to utilize to sign a 12th player as we made a second half run, we were forced into a hardship situation. We signed Monique really after the first week of the regular season, and then subsequently we added Odyssey later. Those two long-term hardship contracts have essentially eaten through the extra salary cap space that we have. So as we sit here today, we are a capped out team financially. Now, why does that matter? Here's why it matters. When the injured players come back, when the first injured player returns, we will be forced to release one of the two hardship contracts. That's either Monique or Odyssey. We don't have a choice. It has to be a hardship contract. There's no ability to say, you know what, both players have been playing great, and by the way, they've been tremendous for us. We've decided that we'll keep them and we'll release another player. Can't do that. One of those two must be released. When the second injured player returns, the second hardship contract must be released. Again, no choice in terms of changing out that player. That hardship contract must be released. So as two come back, Monique and Odyssey must come off. When we release them, they become unrestricted free agents immediately and can sign with any team the next day, with the exception of the team who released them from the hardship contract, us. For us, in order for us to resign either one of those players coming off a hardship contract, we have a 10-day wait. So effectively, the clock on all of these things would start the first day that the season returns, which is the 15th of August. So if we, in fact, have two players come back prior to the 15th, and if, in fact, that we release both hardship players, the clock on that 10-day wait for us would begin on the 15th of August, and then effectively our first date as an opportunity to re-sign either one of them or both of them would be the 25th of August. Now, the additional complication comes into effect here that, again, we are capped out in terms of space. Therefore, in order to re-sign both Odyssey or Monique or even one of the two players, we would have to create cap space. Because we are in the second half of the season, all contracts have been guaranteed by this point. The only way that we create cap space is to trade a player to another team and not bring back a salary from that team. That is a complicated situation because, much like us, almost every team in the WNBA is either at the cap or very close to the cap. So finding teams who have an interest in a player we're willing to move and the cap space to absorb that salary and not return any money to us is challenging at this point in the season. With that said, I'm working the phones every day. We're trying to find ways to get better as we move into the final 15 games. And again, Monique and Odyssey have been really good for us. If we can find a way to bring back one, if not both of those players, that is a priority. I just don't know if it's going to be a reality. So that is kind of the situation as we move into the final 15 games. You know, the good news for us, 9 of the 15 are at home. The challenging news for us, we have by record the hardest schedule of all 12 WNBA teams remaining. We are 4.5 games out of a playoff spot with 15 games to go. So a lot of work to do, but not an impossibility. We're going to look to ride the momentum of our last game on July 17th in the big win against Indiana, the momentum of Enrique's play in the All-Star contest, the momentum of Satu's play in the Olympics, and get ready to play Connecticut on August 16th as we head down the stretch.